Good morning, good afternoon, and konbanwa, wherever you are in the world. This is Rita Kamishiro, and you are now listening to the comfiest corner of the internet, Archangel Radio, where you can kick back, relax, and enjoy the company of me, all of the amazing archangels we have here, and our wonderful guest for today. Woohoo! Yeah. Oh my gosh. For those who don't know who this lovely individual sitting next to me is, this is Nami from Production Kawaii Second Generation, the adventuring healer of Production Kawaii. Is that right?
Yeah, I'm the video game lady.
The video game lady. I love to hear it. And if you haven't been on her channel before, you'll find her playing some games, chatting. She's been playing Atelier. Is it Atelier, Aisha? Is that how you say it?
Yeah. That's it.
That's it. You've also been playing some Civilization 6, some other games, some karaoke, ASMR, and you've also recently revealed your 3D idol outfit design as part of the Kawaii Idol Project. So if you want to get to know Nami more, please be sure to hang out with her and the Hirojis over on her YouTube channel. But without further ado, I'd love to hand it over to you to introduce yourself to the Archangels.
Oh boy, my favorite time of collabs. Hi everyone, I'm Nami. If you come to my channel, please be aware I'm much more akin to Luto than our lovely Miss Rita over here.
I love that description. It really paints an image in my brain.
It's a great time. We have fun. We play a lot of JRPGs and all sorts of other stuff, and draw and do art and everything. We do everything over there.
No,
except
no
for stay on
sight
topic.
for the fun.
I
can feel that.
Yeah, we're the tangents over there. That's guaranteed.
Guaranteed. And I'm sure you all of your tangents are so interesting and amazing. We have some interesting topics for today, so maybe we can get a little bit of that taste of the tangent time with Nami. But I'd love to spend a little bit more time getting to know more about you before we hop into your topics for today. I hope you don't mind me prying into, what it is that, makes you up. So I'd love to know if you had to summarize who you are. You've kind of mentioned that you are more on the Luto end of the spectrum, but what would you say is your charm point if you had to kind of boil yourself down to one idea, one phrase? What would that be?
Oh, that's a good question. Honestly, probably the tangents. I know a lot of people like really enjoy my tangents and like my anecdotes, and a lot of people say that they have started watching me specifically for my laugh. So
oh, I hope we get to hear it a lot.
Apparently that's a good one too. Yeah, so I guess people say that I'm pretty interesting whenever I speak, which is a godsend because I don't know how to shut up.
Right, you spend your whole life thinking, oh my gosh, do I talk too much? Am I annoying? Am I overbearing? And then all of a sudden you have people come to you and say, I like listening to you talk, keep going, and you just go, what?
Yeah. Everyone be like, hey, can you do like more chatting streams? Can you just like talk? And I'm like, are you sure?
It's just like, the cognitive dissonance. You're just like, wait a minute, my whole life I've been told to shut up, and now what? They're telling me the opposite. Shut down? No, that doesn't make sense. But oh my
maybe.
gosh, maybe. But I've been meaning to have you on here. I've always find that you have something very interesting to say. You're very knowledgeable about different things. I remember you gave me some advice about bread a long while ago. Do you remember that?
I do. I remember coming by for the Gatorade bread. I was so excited. I was like, I gotta catch Rita's Gatorade bread stream.
And you were guiding me throughout the whole thing. I just thought, oh my gosh, somebody sent me this guardian angel. Thank goodness. Oh my gosh. So I've been meaning to have you around and get to know you more and see what makes you tick and just listen to you go off on your tangents. So I'm so excited to have you here. I hope you have lots of fun chatting today. But before we go into our first topic, I want to ask you a question. You recently covered Good Riddance. Is that right?
Yes. So, if
Mhm.
you have played Hades by
Mhm.
Supergiant Games, if you've been in, I've forgotten the name of that zone now, but it's like the second zone. You can
Mhm.
meet one of the NPCs and she'll be singing a song. And as soon as I met her
Mhm.
and heard that song, I sat there and I listened it
Mm.
for like 20 minutes. I just stopped playing
Yeah.
and listened to her sing.
Yeah.
And I was like, I need to cover this one day. Like I need to sing this song.
Mhm. It's
So
so
I
beautiful.
finally did it. It's gorgeous. It's such a good song.
And your cover, I think, was amazing. I remember I listened to it for the first time. I just sat there and I thought, oh my gosh, I feel like I'm ascending to a different plane of existence. Like I felt like
Thank
I was
you.
sitting like in a big cathedral. Your Sispuela Magica cover as well. I
Oh, thank
blown
you.
away. So amazing. If you haven't seen it yet, please check it out. You'll have an otherworldly out of body experience. I can guarantee it.
Yeah, both of those I really like challenged myself with the harmonies as
Mm.
well. Like
Hmm.
even that really deep harmony in
Oh,
Sispuela, that's all like me naturally singing it.
yeah.
And I
Wow.
learned the secondary harmony that's
Yeah.
in Good Riddance because that one
Mm-hmm.
actually has two parts. You have
Mm-mm-mm.
the part that you hear whenever like you first meet her, and
Mm-hmm.
then why can't I remember anyone's name in this game right now? But you have the other the other part, which is like the
Mhm.
other character, and he sings it in a minor key, so it sounds like much more melancholy, and then you put it
Mm.
together and it's like this beautiful contrast between like her hopeful
Mhm.
sound of it and then his like really sorrowful mourning sound, in like the double meaning of the words
Mhm.
is incredible.
Oh my gosh. And thank you, Shiny, for dropping the links. Yes, if you haven't checked out the covers yet, please do check out those links. And was there any particular part you of the songs that you thought was difficult or fun to record outside of those like harmony bits? Or maybe memorable
um
moments or your favorite parts just to have sung or listened to?
oh man, I don't know.
Mm.
I don't know. I really think like the harmonies are the things that really stand out to me the most because of
Sure,
the fact
sure.
that like my brain
Mhm.
really operates in a way that whenever I listen to a song and then I go to sing
Mhm.
it, it tries to replicate it almost like exactly as I've heard it.
Mhm.
Like I find it really difficult to actually switch to
Ah, okay.
different harmonies and stuff. So to
Right,
me that's
right.
always like my greatest challenge is
Sure.
to try and actually like nail those harmony parts.
Hmm. So hopefully in the future we'll get to see you challenge yourself more, listen to more of your covers. I hope so.
Yes, there's some in the works. They're just slow because I'm slow
Secrets.
with them.
Oh no, I totally understand. And some archangels or some of our listeners in the chat have been saying Eurydice and Orpheus, which reminds me, have you seen the musical? Is it Hades Town or Hadestown? Have you seen it?
I have watched some of it, but I
Mm-hmm.
need to finish watching it.
Mm.
I need to find myself another good old slime tutorial. That's my secret for
Ah,
musicals.
I see, I
Do you know about that
see.
one?
Oh my gosh. I actually, you mentioned, you'd seen a little bit of it already. I've only listened to a couple of songs myself. So
Mm.
I'll need to finish listening to the rest of the songs. I remember there was like a wedding song. It's so beautiful. If you like folk music, even if you don't like folk music, I think it was a very interesting way to kind of get into it. It's really nice. Oh my
I
god.
love folk music, and I obviously really love like Greek mythology, so
Hmm.
it's certainly up there on my actually finish watching it list.
Do you consider yourself a connoisseur of the knowledge surrounding Greek mythology?
I wouldn't say like I'm necessarily like really knowledgeable, but it is
Mhm.
definitely one of my interests. Like if I see
Sure.
something that's like, oh, a retelling of this, or it's like, oh,
Hmm.
it takes place with Greek mythology, I'm like, Okay, you've got my attention.
Do you have a favorite
I'll
like?
look at this.
Do you have a favorite like series or franchise that has tapped into Greek mythology?
Honestly, Hades is probably my favorite thus
Ah.
far. I really, really, really like Hades. I know everyone would be like Percy Jackson, but
Oh.
I have only read one of the books, I think.
Mm-hmm.
So I read enough to like watch the movie, the first movie
Yeah.
when it came
Mhm.
out, and I was like, this is awful because it's absolutely nothing like the book.
Oh no, I'm the opposite. I've never read the book, but I've watched the movies.
Oh, they're
So-
nothing like the book.
Uh-oh. Blasphemous. I have to say that. Oh my gosh. Oh wow. I remember I read this webtoon called Lore Olympus. I didn't get to finish it, but I remember I read the beginning of it. And
That one's really popular.
Yeah, I don't know. I kind of lost interest. It's not that I don't like Greek mythology. I guess I got a little bit lost in the story. I don't know. It just became something that wasn't for me, and so I dropped it. But I see what you mean. I love seeing like mythology and history told with a different lens. I think it makes it really interesting and easy to consume, I think.
Yeah. I'm a big sucker for like if a YA book comes out and it's like a Hades and Persephone retelling. I'm like, let me add it to my to-read list.
Oh my gosh, we were having a lovely conversation before we went live about books. And do you want to tell everyone about those maybe who might not be aware about your book club?
Yeah. So every week I have for my members over on my channel, we do book club because I'm a prolific and voracious reader and I am forcing all of my members to read as well.
Oh my gosh.
And right now we're doing Jane Eyre and I'm doing it like an audio book for them. So I'm actually reading it aloud so that they have no excuse to not have read this amazing classic.
And how has it been going?
Oh, good until we hit parts of the
Uh-oh.
book where there's French and I don't
Oh.
know French.
Bonjour or something, right?
Yeah.
Hello.
Yeah, I don't know French, so I'll either just absolutely butcher it without caring, or sometimes I'll pull up Google Translate and I'll type in what it says in the book, and then I'll just have the Google Translate voice read it for everyone. So when we hit French, there's a bit of a speed bump, but beyond that, it's pretty okay. I do voices for them like any proper book reading should be.
Right. Oh my gosh. Well, maybe I'll have to hop in, your membership one day and join you for one of these, book clubs. Oh my gosh.
Oh
that
yeah.
fun.
We've had guest readers sometimes. Reina will come in occasionally, and she's actually joined me reading.
Oh my
every so often.
gosh! If you're looking for a guest reader, I love reading. I told Nami I've been recently getting back into reading books. So let me know. I'd love to be a guest reader if you're looking.
That would be so awesome. Yeah. You're totally welcome anytime. Like I didn't necessarily invite Reina. She just showed up one day and she was like, "Hey, I'm gonna read with you." And
I love
was like,
Reina.
Okay.
I love Reina. Oh my gosh.
She's just like that. She's just like, "Okay, I'm coming in." And I'm like, "All right, whatever you say, Reina."
I love that about her. Oh my gosh. But I think this is a great segue, about your hobbies. This is our first topic for today. We're going to be talking about hobbies, kind of how you balance your hobbies, and then we'll dive into some of your hobbies like DIY, handicrafts, and 3D modeling. But let's talk a little bit kind of on a broader scale about your hobbies. So you've talked a little bit about how you read books a lot, I'm assuming, as a hobby. What are your other hobbies? I've heard that you can play a few instruments. Is that correct?
Yes. So I play flute. I can play guitar and ukulele. I'm learning the harp right now. I bought a harp.
Beautiful.
So those are I can also play a little bit of saxophone.
Ooh.
But not much. I'm like that person that I'm like, I like this instrument, and so I want to learn how to play it. I would love
Mhm.
to basically live in like an orchestra room
Oh,
where I just
fun!
have
Sure.
access to everything and learn everything. Oh, the ocarina. I
Oh,
always forget
okay.
that one.
Oh,
I
wow.
also have an ocarina.
Have a little Legend of
So
Zelda moment.
yeah, it is actually like a Zelda themed one, but it's
Oh, wow.
really nice and ceramic. It's not like one of the plastic ones.
Oh, wow.
But yeah, like I just want to play everything. Like I would love to learn violin. Um
If you want to learn viola, I'd be more than happy to teach you.
oh, I'll add it to the list. Let's just learn everything. I want to
And
be the
of
one
course,
man orchestra.
violin, as a violist, by proxy, I've played violin. It's not much of a difference.
Yeah, yeah.
It's, if you know how to play viola, you could easily play violin. You could probably play cello pretty easily. Bass is a different story.
Yeah, yeah, I know.
I've had a bassist
Bright face.
try to show me how to play the bass, and I just thought, gosh, you have to shift just to get to like the next note. Anyway, it's really an interesting experience. But I'm excited to hear more about how how often you play your different instruments.
Well, right now since I'm learning the harp, that one's
Mhm.
definitely the one I'm playing the most.
Sure.
Like whenever I'm learning something, I spend most of my time putting
Mhm.
it towards learning.
Sure.
So whenever I pick up like a new hobby or skill or whatever,
Mhm.
I'll usually like stop most everything else and I'll be like, I'm really like hyper focusing
Oh,
on
sure.
learning this skill until I'm
Mhm.
at like a comfortable point, and then I'll start working it into like the rotation of what do I want to do today?
Right,
Do I
right.
want to like draw or paint or spin yarn or play one of these instruments or like the billion other things that I do?
Oh my! Well, judging, by our conversation just now about how you love learning new instruments and you're learning a new instrument right now, I feel like you'd relate to that feeling. Don't you just love the feeling of being a beginner at something?
Oh, no, I hate it.
Really? Really? I'm intrigued because to me, whenever like I love the feeling of like mystery and intrigue and like something being a mystery to me and like slowly
Oh,
picking up the
no.
pieces and the puzzles. But go ahead. How do you feel?
I want to master it immediately. I'm the type of person that like I'm really frustrated when I'm at the
Sure.
beginner part where I
Sure.
don't know how to do something. So I think that's part of why I like stop and really pour all of my time into the new thing that I'm learning,
Ah.
because I'm like, I want to get good at this right now because I hate being a beginner at it. I
Mhm,
I
mhm.
hate like fighting through the beginning process of feeling like I'm so bad at this, but I'm so good at this other thing that
Mm,
I can actually like kind of relate
sure.
it to. I'm like, I can play the flute well, but this harp is going to kill me, and it's like it's so frustrating for me that I'm like
Ah.
I hate this, so I just keep bashing my head against the wall to
Oh.
not hate it as much.
Despite, hating feeling like a beginner, do you still find enjoy I'm sure you do. Some sort of enjoyment from the learning process and from study?
Yeah, 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 yeah. No,
Mhm.
I love learning. Like
Mm,
if I'm not learning something or creating something, I think I would explode.
right.
I have to be
Right.
doing one or the other at all times, or I might as well not exist.
Ah, I feel like that's a very universal feeling among us creatives, right? You kind of have to keep yourself busy.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Like you got to be doing something. Although I will say yesterday I made the mistake of re-downloading The Sims 4 and I
Oh, but
lost my I lost my whole day to The Sims.
I did you see the light in my eyes that flickered? I love The Sims 4, and it's crazy that you said that because I also recently just started playing Sims 4 again.
Oh, it's not good.
It's not good.
You
It's
lose like
not
your
good.
whole day to it.
It's not good.
Suddenly,
I can
suddenly
I
it's 10 p.m. and all you've done is The Sims.
can I plug something real quickly? I this is actually a secret. So next week I'm hosting a charity stream for Nami. Whoa. Whoa. The name.
Whoa.
Um, it's the National Alliance on Mental Illness. So I'm doing like a
Oh.
panel style presentation. And when you brought up Sims 4, I just thought, imagine the serendipity that the theme of my presentation is actually based on Sims 4. So sneak preview. But if you
Oh,
like The
that's
Sims
crazy.
or video games, the presentation's gonna be about The Sims 4. But that is so fun. I love
That sounds
randomly.
awesome.
I love randomly picking up, an old flame of a hobby. What is your favorite
Right?
thing to do in The Sims?
Oh, in The Sims, it kind of changes. Like I'll go through and I'll kind of go through and make like different concepts for different Sims. And frankly, a lot of the time, like I don't even play. I love making Sims and I
Ah,
love building their houses, and then I'll
yeah.
spend 6 hours on that, and then I'll be like, all right, that was a good session playing The Sims, and then I'll like save and turn off the game and never actually play it on
Right,
that
right.
sim sometimes. Like I get really deep into the pain of the actual like architectural
Mm-hmm,
building and
mm-hmm.
like filling up the house with nice things. Like, oh my gosh, clutter everywhere. It's got to look like it's
Right.
actually lived
Lived
in.
in, right.
Yeah.
I
It's funny
agree.
because that's actually that was the real reason that The Sims was made, was to be an architectural visualization
Really?
program. Yeah, yeah,
I can
yeah.
see
So
that.
that's actually how The Sims started. So I feel like I'm doing fine just making the houses and then closing the game. I'm doing what was
Ah.
originally intended for the game, in my opinion.
You're like, I'm using as intended. Excuse you.
Yes, yeah, it's fine.
Someone in chat asked, what is the longest season you've dedicated to The Sims? Like, what's the longest Sims game you've played? In terms of Sims life, I guess.
Oh, that's a good question.
Mm-hmm.
I I've been like a lifelong simmer, I'm not gonna lie, because
Since Sims
I've
1?
played, yeah, since 1, yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, so we actually had the complete collection of Sims 1, which if you've never played
Oh.
The Sims 1, that game is so hard.
Really? How so?
Yeah, yeah. It's so hard because all of their needs drain
Mm-hmm.
so quickly, and it's so hard to
Mm.
like keep up with them, and then
Yeah.
making friends is almost impossible. Like
Oh
doing anything in The
no.
Sims 1 is so difficult because you're struggling just to stay alive.
Oh no. It's like that's all you have to focus on. That's all life is just eating,
Yeah,
sleeping. Oh my gosh. That's
yeah,
so
the original
crazy.
Sims is so hard.
Oh my gosh. And Joe, thank you so much for the super chat. Really appreciate it. Oh my gosh. I'm so glad we had this conversation about The Sims. We'll have to talk a lot more about that later. I
Yeah.
started my Sims journey with The Sims 2. I had Sims
Oh.
University, back to business, and of course my base game was double deluxe. So I had like the
Hmm.
nighttime one and then the celebration stuff pack. But I remember when I had the university pack, I didn't really understand like what university was or what college was around the time that I was playing the game. And what I would do is I would just go finish my thesis. Like I would choose my major, finish my thesis, and I would run my needs down all the way down to like the yellows and the reds, and I thought, I could just fix it later. I could, after my thesis is done, I could just fix it later. Lo and behold, I find out later from people who have written theses, they said that's exactly it. That's
I was
exactly the
about to say that's
experience.
real college. That's exactly how it goes. My
Oh my
my
gosh.
hunger, my needs, my everything else. No. Schoolwork, schoolwork. Got to get that done.
Well, gosh. But I hope that, when it comes to other things like your hobbies, you have a little bit of a better time balancing them. But what is your role? What role does your hobbies look like in your life as a content creator? I feel like that's a really interesting question to ask a content creator. What does it look like to you?
My hobbies are honestly like how I take time for myself,
Mm-hmm.
because like especially as, streaming content
Mm-hmm.
creators, when you think about it, we spend so much of our day like
Mm-hmm.
on other people and like
Mm-hmm.
with other people. And as someone who is absolutely 100% like an introvert, like
Mm-hmm.
I need time
Mm-hmm.
to be just just me and myself alone. Like I love being alone, and my hobbies, pretty much all of them, let me do that.
Mm.
Because like even if it's like just playing a video game off stream, pretty much
Mm.
everything that I do is single player, unless it's the hit MMO RPG Final Fantasy 14. But that's a different story.
Right.
So like they're my rest and recharge time.
Sure. Nice. So you don't struggle at all, you know. I feel like a lot of content creators that I've talked to have, because their job is their hobby, right? They showcase a lot of their hobbies online for other people to see. I find that a lot of people struggle finding that line between hobby and work. Do you struggle with that at all?
I think so, yeah. Yeah,
Mm.
definitely. Especially when it comes to like wanting to play games off stream, is I struggle with like feeling like I should let myself.
Mm-hmm.
Like I'll look at everything that I have that I might want to play, and I'm like, well, I could play that on stream someday. I could play that on stream, so I shouldn't play
Right,
it. And then I'm like,
right.
no, you need to have things that are like for you. So
Yeah.
even if it's just like playing a game for an hour, I've
Yeah.
at least done something like for me off stream.
Mhm.
And like I'm trying to keep that line with games, because that's probably the hardest
Mm-hmm.
thing of keeping the balance, is with gaming specifically,
Yeah.
because that's, you know, most of my content is gaming. So it's really
Mhm.
hard for me to be like, well, you can play that off stream, it's okay, you can do it.
Yeah. Kind of like allow yourself that, like, you really have to tell yourself, you know, that it's okay. Because sometimes
Yeah.
your brain, because I feel that too, you kind of get into your own head thinking like, oh, but what if I do something interesting, or what if I do something fun on
Yeah,
the
like
game,
this
and
could be content.
right. And you just gotta let yourself have those moments to yourself, right? Like,
Yeah.
you know what, maybe I will pull in this for this gotcha game on my own. You know, like maybe I will afford myself my own like I'll get to have fun with my own reaction, right? Like, you know, because you know, you can just enjoy your own company. You can scream about it.
Sometimes it's
you
nice.
can- exactly.
Sometimes it's nice to play
exactly.
a game and like either do nothing or say nothing and have no reactions, or you're like, this is fine. My reactions are to
Yeah.
myself in my head for once.
Right, exactly. Or you could just scream at your monitor yourself, like, "Oh my god, I got it!" And I was the
Yeah.
only one to see it, and that's okay.
That's fine.
Oh my gosh. Well, you have many other hobbies as well, and I'm intrigued to see more about them. But you mentioned that, you know, you're a very DIY sort of person. You're into handicrafts. I'd love to know what got you into sewing, embroidery, knitting.
Well, my family, like my mom is a really crafty person as well. So I've grown up in a household that's like really, really crafty, like
Oh,
my
okay.
whole life. So I learned how to sew from her. Everything else, a lot of other things I sort of picked up on my own, but like she was always like a scrapbooker. She likes making art journals now. That's sort of her thing. She knows how to make jewelry.
Oh,
So I've sort of learned like that attitude of like, well,
sure.
why can't I see if I could make this myself from
Oh,
her?
I love that. Yeah.
And I'm also like a fairly frugal person.
Sure.
So
Sure.
I'll get to the point where it's like, I'm really enjoying this hobby that I have,
Right.
but how could I spend less money on
Mm.
it? And that's sort of what happened. Like recently I learned how to spin my own yarn because
Oh!
yeah, like I love to knit. I love knitting. I've knitted like a whole cardigan for myself, but I've only used synthetic fibers before because natural fiber yarn is really expensive,
Oh.
especially if you're doing like a big project. Like if I was going
Sure.
to knit a cardigan out of like wool yarn that I bought, that like from a retailer or from like someone that just makes it like commercially, I would spend $100 to $200 just on the yarn.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, but if you spin your own yarn, you get
Okay.
that wool a lot cheaper. You just have to spend all your time making the yarn before you can then use it. So like I
Ah.
could get a pound of unprocessed, like undyed, just wool roving for $20 whenever a skein that's not even like 100 grams could cost $20.
So what does that process look like, spinning your own yarn? I've never done that before, experienced it.
It's There's actually lots of different ways that you can do it. I use a drop spindle, which means that you have the fiber attached to a spindle that you then spin and it hangs. And so, like, as it's pulling down the fiber, it's
Uh-huh.
introducing a twist into it to make it into like a
Oh,
strong thread.
wow.
But
And
there's
it's not
also
that.
like
Oh,
spinning
wow.
wheels and everything, but they're so expensive.
Oh gosh. And so this looks like just a one small device. It's not like a big machine or anything.
Yeah. So when
Oh
you use a drop spindle,
wow.
it's actually really small. I could probably find a picture and send it to
I
you,
searched it up
so you can
on my
see.
laptop here. Oh my gosh.
Oh, there you
It's
go.
cool.
Yeah.
Wow.
So I use what's called a Turkish spindle, and
Okay.
it has little arms,
I'm gonna look
because
at.
it lets you make like a center pull ball as you're spinning.
Oh. Oh
Yeah,
wow.
so you could
Okay.
actually knit or crochet right off of that if you only want to use the single, or it makes it a lot easier to ply it, so you have a double ply
Oh
yarn
my
at the end.
gosh. Nami, you're so cool. You're so cool. This is so cool. I've never
It's
seen
so
this
much
before.
fun.
Oh
I'm
my
gonna recommend
gosh. Mhm.
maybe look into it some more if you think it's cool. It's actually a lot of fun,
Okay.
and it's great for like
Yeah.
if you like watching TV. Like
Yes, yes.
I'm super into just like binge watching something while I spin. I'll just stand there and spin yarn and binge watch whatever
Oh,
I'm
that's
doing.
perfect. That's perfect.
Yeah.
Because I feel like a lot of my hobbies are very like focus intensive, like viola
Mm.
or like other musical stuff. So maybe, oh my gosh, maybe I'll look into that. Oh my gosh.
Yeah. There's actually a lot of like
Mhm.
spinner starter kits that you can get on
Okay.
Etsy that'll come with a
Uh-oh.
spindle and some wool and everything. So
The door has
they're
opened.
yeah. I'm here to spread yarn spinning.
Oh my gosh. You mentioned something earlier that really caught my attention. You mentioned how you were surrounded by kind of like crafting and DIY and how growing up like that has kind of taught you how to kind of be like a MacGyver, right? How to be resourceful and it's taught you how to
Mm.
be frugal. And I always find it really interesting when folks come on and talk about things, and we always get into a really interesting conversation about how their hobbies, things that they really enjoy, form a core part of their identity. And so you've talked about
Yeah.
how, you've learned to be, resourceful, you've learned to be rather frugal when it comes to, DIY and handicrafts. I'd love to learn more about how your hobbies affect, your identity, how you view the world around you, and if you have any fond like memories or like family traditions or anything like that.
Mm.
Mhm.
As like I feel like if I had less hobbies, I could probably be like, well, I really see like myself as this. But one of my
Mm.
friends actually said the other day that
Mhm.
they consider me actually like the modern Renaissance man
Wow.
equivalent,
Okay.
because they were like, it's like when people say, jack of all trades but master of none, they're like, no,
Sure.
you actually like get really good at pretty much everything that you pick up.
Wow. Wow.
So I guess that's sort of like how mine would affect my identity, is
Ah.
that I love learning and I love picking
Sure.
up new things. So to me, that's like the core of it.
Mm.
And that's why I'll be like, that seems interesting. I think I'm
Right.
going to dedicate a portion of my life to getting really good at it. And then I'll pick
Right.
something else up and get really good at that. And then
Yeah.
just keep going on. So it's sort of like the opposite way for me,
Mm.
is like
Mm.
I really like to learn and get good at
Right.
things.
Right.
So rather than having like the hobby be part of my identity, it's like my identity is getting a bunch of these hobbies and skills in that way. Like
Right.
I want to just like have it all. I'm like, that seems
Right.
fun. I
Right.
want to do it. And so I do.
I
Because
love
I think
that. Yeah.
that's like a thing that a lot of people like hold back on. They'll be like,
Right.
oh, that seems fun, but I could never do it. Well,
Then
because
try
you
it.
don't ever pick it up. Yeah, you have to like actually try.
Then do it. I can
Yeah,
see
just
that
do
being
it.
like a Nami meme format where it's like, oh, I don't know if I can do it. Then it's a picture of Nami. She goes, then do it.
And
Then
do
try
it.
it.
Yeah, try. You
Oh
don't know
my
what you can
gosh.
do until you actually do it.
I love that. I think, the fact that you have so many hobbies really does showcase that about you and how you place that importance into just the idea of learning. I think a lot of people, psych themselves out and think, oh, I don't know if I don't know what I'd use this task for. I don't know what I would use this skill for. Why not just learn it for the sake of knowing how to do it, right? Like, I think we should value
Yeah.
that more. Hmm.
Yeah. That's sort of like a joke that my mom and I have
Mm.
where we'll see something. We're really bad about enabling each other to buy like more craft supplies.
Sure.
So so like one time we were going around and she saw this really nice washi tape that she wanted and I was
Oh,
like, "What are
pretty.
you going to do with that?" And she's like, "I don't know, stick it on things." And I think that
There you
like
go.
that's an idea and like attitude that more people should have about like
Mm.
doing anything. It's like, "What are you going to
Right.
do with that?" I don't know. Just do it. Have fun.
Yeah, just do it. Have fun. And I love that this is a conversation that we're having today because I think I think just generally in our society, we live in a society, of course, and I think a lot
Yes,
of
we
people are
do.
just are so focused on producing something, right? To say like
Yes.
to put something out there to have some sort of output. But what if the output was, you learning and experiencing something, right? You don't have to show something for it for all of your work and experience. But
Yeah.
mhm,
We live in like such a culture now that's all about
mm,
monetizing everything that
right,
you do.
right.
And that I think like stops a lot of people from
Hmm.
ever learning how to do anything else, like just for the pure enjoyment of doing it.
Hmm.
And they're like, well, what can I do with this? I can't
Right,
monetize it, or I need to be at a
right,
point where I can monetize it. And it's like,
right,
no, you should have hobbies that are just things that
right,
make you happy as
right,
well.
right. And if you're one of the lucky few who can turn your hobby into your career and you get to do your hobby, as the thing that gives you, your sustenance, then congratulations. But I think it is really important to have something that you do just to do it, just to have fun, right? You don't have
Yeah,
to worry
yeah.
about. mm, I think it's a very important outlet for things. But I'd love to, learn about what you enjoy about handicrafts and DIY. Since it's your hobby, you do it for fun. You kind of do it as an outlet. What do you think is the key tenets to what makes you enjoy handicrafts and DIY?
I really enjoy just like knowing that I can break something down into its base parts and like do it myself.
Mm,
Like just the idea of being like, man, yarn, cool.
mm.
I bet I could find out how to make my
Yeah,
own yarn. I bet I could do that. Like that's sort
yeah,
of how I look at things whenever I think
sure,
about like DIY stuff. I'm like, how could I put my hands into more of this process? Like
right.
I found a lot of enjoyment in just like knowing that I've
Mm,
influenced like what's gone into this thing. So like if I were to buy knit gloves, it's just like, okay, well, I gave you money for that. If I were to knit my own gloves, it's like, yeah,
ah,
I made that.
yeah, and you can be proud of
I did
yourself,
that. Me.
right?
Yeah.
And
Like
you have
you really get that
memories,
sense of accomplishment.
right?
Yeah.
Right. So then, how do you decide on a project?
Um, that's the hardest part, honestly. Like deciding on a project is so difficult because it's either like I have no ideas of what I would want to make right
Mm,
now, or I have
mm.
1,000 different ideas.
Oh my
Like
god.
at some point, it's just I go through. There's a website like especially for knitting.
Uh-huh.
There's a website that has just a bunch of like knitting and crochet patterns on it, and I'll just go
Mm-hmm.
through and I'll look through stuff and I'll be like, that seems fun
Mm.
sometimes, and I'll just be like, yep, that's what I'm gonna do, because otherwise
Oh.
I'll sit there
Mm.
being like, well, I could do this or that or that. You get like project
Oh,
paralysis.
the choice paralysis. I agree. I agree.
Yeah. So
Oh
it's
my
just like sometimes
gosh.
you need to just either fall back on like a pattern that you really enjoy or like a project that you really enjoy, or
Mm.
you go find something brand new. So like I'll do that with like baking and stuff too, because I
Mm.
love to bake, and all sorts of other stuff. Sometimes I'll be like, I want to try a new recipe, or I'll fall back
Mm.
on an old recipe when I just feel
Yeah.
like baking.
Yeah.
Just
Somebody.
like
Oh, go ahead.
one of those comforting things, like
Yeah.
old or something to challenge
Right.
myself, a brand new thing.
Speaking of challenges, somebody in the chat said, "Have you ever come across a hobby or just a task, like a piece of a hobby that was very, very difficult or too hard to do? How did you overcome that? How would you overcome that?"
I'm kind of facing that with the harp right now
Okay.
because
Sure.
I've tried to learn piano in the past, and
Mm-hmm.
I'm
Very like
very
similar.
bad at like
Mm.
separating my left hand and my right
Right.
hand,
Right.
especially when it comes to like doing different notes at the same time,
Oh,
even though I
right.
know that like if I play the guitar or the ukulele or the flute, they're technically separate, but to me they're working towards the
The same
same
thing.
object. Yeah.
Right. And same with the viola. So I see what you mean.
Yeah. Yeah, so if it's like I need to think about playing this particular set of notes on my left hand, but I'm playing a different set of notes and they're two separate tasks. My brain has a
Yeah.
really difficult time with that. So that's like my big like difficulty right now with the harp, and how I'm doing with that is just I keep doing it. I keep bashing my head against the wall. I
Just
think there was a
rote
piano
repetition.
teacher. Yeah. There's a piano teacher out there that says like practice to make no mistakes, essentially. So like rather than sitting there and practicing quickly over and over again with repetition and making the same mistakes,
Right.
it's better to actually slow down
Right.
and stop yourself from making the mistake and practicing it.
You know, that's a really great point. I think it also kind of lends itself to, if you find yourself having trouble with something, find a different way to do it. Find a different way to that it makes sense in your brain. My viola teacher had mentioned, like, if you come across like a 16th note passage or a really fast passage, don't just play each note, like, even if it's just slowed down. Like, don't just play each note for the same value. Maybe switch between long notes and short notes, or short notes and long notes. Play it a little bit differently so that your hands and your brain get used to playing some notes fast and maybe some notes slower, and then you can switch it around so you get used to playing some notes fast, and then before you know it, you've had experience playing all the notes fast, and now you just gotta put it together. So you just gotta find ways that it's different in your brain.
Yeah, and it's sort of like the concept of like it's a lot easier to build a habit than it is to break one. So when it comes to practicing, if you're practicing something but you keep making a mistake and you never stop to slow down there, you're building that habit of making that mistake.
Yep, exactly.
So it's a lot better to like just slow down and really like consciously hit each note, or like focus like really hard on that thing that's making it difficult for yourself, so that you build up the habit of doing it properly.
Gosh, I can't agree with that any more. I currently am unlearning things when it comes to the viola. I learned the viola when I was really young, and you know, you can't have a teacher. Well, you can, but you have to have a lot of money. You have to have money. You know, I learned a lot of stuff kind of like in a group setting, and so I never really got to, I guess, learn things very properly. So I'm having to unlearn them now, and it's quite the experience, I will have to say.
Yeah.
Gosh, on the topic though of things being very difficult, do you ever find yourself losing motivation to work on certain hobbies, and how do you overcome that?
Whenever I feel like waning interest in a different hobby, because of the fact that I have like a billion of them, I kind of just move on to a new one until like it'll come back. With that, it's sort of like the idea of burnout, you know. It's like move on from what you're doing, find something else to do, and then you'll find that motivation comes back. And I know that's really difficult as like advice for people that don't have a billion different hobbies or things that they do, because it's like, well, that's the thing that I do. Like a lot of artists, whenever they suffer with burnout, like it's really, really detrimental to them, because art is what they do. But for me, like, because of the fact that I do vary what I do so much, if I start to feel like, well, I don't want to draw right now, I'll just move on to something else. Maybe I'll read, maybe I'll play a game, maybe I'll play an instrument, maybe I'll, you know, 3D model. It's just like I have so much out there, like in my toolkit of hobbies, that I'm not really like suffering with like, well, I have nothing to do, and now I'm going crazy because I have nothing to do, but I'm burnt out on this thing.
So you always have something to fall back on to keep your brain, you know, moving and working, but it's not something that, you know, you can always find something that you're not particularly frustrated on at the moment, so you can kind of give yourself a break. That's awesome. I like to
Yeah,
see that.
exactly. It's not great advice for everyone else, but maybe the real advice is maybe you should learn more hobbies. And
Oh, here we
and then
go.
you can use that advice.
That's the real lesson of today. Nami's just trying to get you to participate in more hobbies. She's like, start doing handicrafts, start doing DIY. But before we
Yeah.
move on to, oh, go ahead.
I'm here to be jack of all trades propaganda. Do it all.
Just do it. Why not? Why not? What's stopping you? But before we move on to our last topic for the day, do you have any recommendations to our listeners out there for maybe a fun first DIY craft or a first handicraft?
Find something that you're really like interested in. That's the best way that I can tell you to find like a particular thing, and then you're gonna find the easiest thing.
Yeah.
Or you go and you find something that you really, really would want to do. So, like, sometimes focusing on really beginner things is actually worse whenever you're learning something.
Okay.
Because if
the
you're not
challenges.
actually engaged in it, you're not going to enjoy it.
Good
So,
point.
like, I could learn how to play Twinkle Twinkle Little Star on my harp, but am I going to be engaged while I'm learning it? Am I going to enjoy learning that? Probably not. Am I going to be more frustrated if I go and try to learn something that's more advanced? Yes, but I'll be learning something that's like I really 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 want to know how to play this. I really want to be able to do it. So I think like sometimes we go about trying to learn things in the wrong way by thinking like, okay, what's the easiest thing that I can do? And I think
Yeah.
more often we should be learning like, okay, what are the foundations? How can I
Sure.
get those immediately?
Sure.
And then how can I find something to further learn and practice on something I'm actually interested in doing. Like if you're 3D modeling, you don't care about making a donut.
I don't.
You know, the
Frankly,
iconic
I don't.
blender donut tutorial. You don't care about making a donut. Find something that you actually care about and, you know, watch maybe one of the baby beginner tutorials to learn just like where tools are,
Right.
the absolute foundational knowledge, and then find something that you're actually interested in making and use that and hammer it out yourself, and then just look up things that you need help with. Because I think that's another thing too, is that like people really rely on the concept of like, well, I can't learn this because there's no info for me.
Right.
I need something that's going to guide me like straight away. But a lot of these things are really just sort of logic puzzles. Like all of 3D modeling is a giant logic puzzle. There's 1,000 different ways to get to the end product, and every person's going to do it their own way. So I think it's more important that people actually start like exploring that. Like I went to school for game art, so that's where I learned how to 3D model, and our classes did something of the same sort. Like we had our very first class, we learned how to model this one object. It was a pretty complex object, but it got us all the foundational knowledge that we needed. And we had like a really in-depth tutorial for each step. And then for the final project of that class, they said, okay, here's some reference photos of different objects that you pick from, and then you model it yourself.
Wow.
Yeah. So
it's like,
like
that sounds like, they threw you in there, but I'm sure it gave you the experience that you needed to really build a strong foundation. That's amazing.
Exactly, yeah. And then at some point, you know, you move from having reference photos of like top, bottom, side, like everything straight on and perfect for you to directly follow, to like, here's just one singular reference photo and you have to model based off of that. Like you really just build up the skill over time with like more difficult puzzles, essentially.
You're so cool. Oh my gosh. So you mentioned that you've taken classes, you've gone to school for it, but how would you suggest a complete beginner to start 3D modeling? Like how do you even break into that space?
There's actually like a lot of resources on like YouTube now. You can absolutely learn pretty much everything that you need on YouTube. So it depends on what program that you want to use too as well.
Do you have
Most people are going to grab, I use Maya because that's what I learned at school. That's what I learned in school, and it's the industry standard. And obviously, our school was teaching to get hired.
Sure. Sure.
But the same like concepts
Mm-hmm.
pass over between every program because it's pretty much the same. It's just the tools and like the layout might be different.
Mm.
So a lot of people, whenever they're just like getting into it, they'll grab Blender
Okay.
because
Mm-hmm.
there's tons and tons and tons of free tutorials out there that'll teach you how to use Blender. And all you really have to do is just like look up I would say like look up like 3D foundationals almost.
Oh.
Like you want the absolute base beginner knowledge of what you need. Like what is an edge loop? What is a vertice? What's a face?
Uh-huh.
Like some of this might sound silly if you've already done some reading, but a lot of people have no knowledge whatsoever. And you have to kind of treat yourself
Mm-hmm.
like that. Like 3D modeling and a lot of different hobbies and stuff in general, they have
Mm-hmm.
basically their own language.
Right, right. It's so
So you
cool.
have to learn that language before you can actually do it.
Oh wow. That is so fascinating. And I'm really curious to see what is the difference between Maya and Blender? Because you mentioned there's this language, right? And I'm assuming,
Mhm.
that sort of language pretty much more or less transfers across all of these different software. But what is the key difference between Maya and Blender? And for those who are just popping in, I see we have a raid today. Welcome in. Welcome in. We are currently talking to the wonderful Nami from Production Kawaii, and we have our current topic is 3D modeling. So whether you're new to 3D modeling or you've been a 3D modeler for your whole life, hopefully you can pick up something exciting and interesting. But the question we had for our guest today, the wonderful Miss Nami, is how could a complete beginner start 3D modeling? She suggested software like Maya and Blender and learning how to understand a hobby's language, because every hobby has a different language, right? You mentioned like
Yeah.
faces, vertices. Like this isn't geometry. Well, I mean, you're gonna have to learn some
It is
geometry, I'm sure.
geometry.
But I'm curious. What is the difference between Maya and Blender as software you suggested?
So, whenever you get into like the different software, they also kind of have their own language, if just by how they function. So, if I want to
Mm.
add an edge loop in Maya, it's a
Mhm.
completely different like physical like buttons and stuff that I have to
Mhm.
click than if I wanted to do that in Blender. So that's like the main difference between the different programs, is just how you get around doing the same thing that you already know that you need to do. You just need to find
Mhm.
out, how does this program make me do that
I
thing?
see.
Like what shortcuts do I have that I need to hit?
Mhm.
What like key binds are there? How does the
Ah.
camera work around? And a lot of 3D programs unfortunately have very different like ways to just use the camera in 3D space. So whenever
Mhm.
you switch between programs, that's one of the hardest things for me to get my brain to wrap back around. Like if I go between Maya and ZBrush, I'm like, oh my god, what is the camera for ZBrush like again?
Oh. And between the two software, is one better, more preferred for like animation or like textures? Like, what is the key features between each two? Like, which one would you use for what situation?
Oh, Blender kind of touts itself as like the everything program, right? So
Okay.
one thing about Blender is that you can probably do everything you want in it. It even has like sculpting and I think texture painting in it now. So
Mm.
you can do everything in Blender, and it's free and open source. So
Mm.
it's a good program for that, especially if you're not looking to like get hired.
Okay.
But like when it comes to Maya, you can't like paint any textures in it. So it's
Oh, okay.
strictly like a modeling package. It's a modeling and animation, and then it
Oh.
also has like some plugins for rendering
Okay.
and simulation of some stuff. Blender's good for rigs and animating
Uh-huh.
and modeling and sculpting and texture painting, and you can do even like 2D art in it now, and you
Oh,
can do
wow.
video editing in it. Like
Wow.
you can do a bunch
Wow.
of crazy stuff in Blender, but that also makes it really really
Uh-huh.
overwhelming. Like
Uh-huh.
the UI is just packed full in Blender.
Wow. I know I am getting a crash course in the language of 3D modeling. Somebody had mentioned that, is it similar to how like with coding languages, there's different languages, right? But if you learn one language, it's pretty easy to pick up another one, right? You kind of have like key features that are pretty much the same, right? Maybe the language is a little bit different, the syntax is a little bit different, but do you find that to be the same case? Like if you learn Maya, a lot of that transfers over to like Blender and things like that?
I would think so, yeah, because at the base you're looking at like, okay, I know how to make something. It's just how to get the program to do what you want it to do, right? So it's like if you took something from like HTML and you're like, I want to make a button in HTML, and you're like, okay, well, I know how to make a button, and then you're going and you're saying like, well, I want to make a button in like Java or whatever, you know, you're still having to be like, how does this particular thing make me want to make a button? So I guess in that way it's true, because it's like, well, if I want to add more geometry, I need to add an edge loop. So it's like, okay, how does Maya make me add an edge loop? How does Blender make me add an edge loop?
Right, you have the question, you have the thing that you want to do. You just have to figure out how to do it.
Exactly. Yeah.
Fascinating. Now, you mentioned, beginner, Blender is kind of a good all-rounder. Maya's, more focused on modeling in and of itself. And I'm curious, as a beginner myself, there's so many things I have to consider, right? Listening to all of this. If you had to boil it down to 3 key points, 3 takeaways, 3 tenets when it comes to starting out in 3D modeling, what would those 3 key points be?
I mean, it kind of depends on what you want to do, like what you want to focus on. Because there's some general rules, right, with 3D modeling is, work in quads.
What is that?
Which that is essentially saying like you want all of your faces of your geometry to have 4 sides. So it's a quad.
Okay.
Because there's also n-gons and there's tris. So an n-gon is any face that has 5 or more sides. And then tri is a triangle.
Okay.
So you want to work in quads for like properly clean geometry, because you're going to be able to deform things better if it's in quads, which deformation being like if it has to move, like if any part of the model needs to move or bend, you want it in quads.
This is so cool. Yeah, someone was like, oh my gosh, this lingo, I feel like I'm in a totally different world. Like I feel like I just knocked on a secret door and I gave the password, and then it's like, okay, you're in, Rita, you can go in. And I know now. Like I'm in the world of 3D modeling. Oh my gosh.
That's what I'm saying. Like it's like really its own language. But if you're making something that like will never deform, then it doesn't matter if you have quads or tris. Like if you're making a rock that's just gonna sit in the back of of an environment and never be touched. Possible. Oh yeah, it can be all sorts of messed up in terms of geometry.
Let's assume it'll move then. So you said try to work in quads.
Yeah, so quads are always going to be like your golden child. That's what you want to work in.
So that's the first key point. All right. 2 more.
Avoid overlapping faces.
Okay,
that one's just a good one to keep in mind.
So what does that mean?
It's really easy if you're building something to accidentally end up with overlapping faces. And that is just a headache and a half to actually clean up your geometry afterwards.
So why is it a headache and a half?
Because they hide. So if you have like something where when you've accidentally extruded twice, you'll end up with faces inside of faces, and you'll sit there and be like, why is my geometry not clean? Why can't I UV unwrap this? And it'll be like, well, because there's something wrong with your geo. And then you have to go and search for where are these hidden places that I somehow got in here. And then sometimes it'll just like make the program hate your model, like just hate it. I've had a fight with Maya before of modeling something. I made no mistakes. There was nothing overlapping, there was no like extra floating vertices, and Maya just kept insisting that the geo wasn't clean, and I had to remodel it.
No! no.
3 times from scratch before it finally
Oh
stopped bugging on
gosh.
it, so I could actually UV unwrap it. It was
Mm.
it was so much. Like,
Breathe
I
out.
guess like the third tenet, the
Uh-huh.
third
The third
tenet is
tenet.
have patience.
Oh gosh. Oh my gosh. I don't think I need any explanation for that one, but wow. Have patience. I love, getting points like these because I feel like whenever you search up a tutorial video, they'll tell you like step 1, you do this, step 2 that. But I feel like a lot of the times, they don't focus on kind of more soft skill parts of
Yeah.
they just show you like the technical skills. Like this is how you do it exactly. But I love getting, tips and tricks. Funny thing, I remember I was learning how to code for the first time. I was learning Python and I was working with a group of other amazing young women who had also been learning how to code for the first time. And one of the girls that I had worked with, right, because we kind of just like were reading from a textbook or kind of being just told what to do. She didn't know what a traceback was, and it'll kind of tell you like what line is the error in, etc. And I'd say like, oh, what error are you getting? Can you read the? And she's like, what are you talking about? And I said, there's the thing at the bottom that tells you like where your error is. And she goes, oh my gosh, I didn't know that. So every single time she had an error, she's been going back and completely rewriting like her code. And I thought, and thank goodness we're writing like a few lines. Like we're not doing anything, we're not writing whole programs or anything. But I just thought, see, no one ever like, because I just happened to like figure it out on my own, right? Because I just read it like, oh, okay,
Yeah.
that makes sense. But you think that's it's silly and like, oh, she should have known that, but there's a lot of small things you just don't pick up. If you don't
No,
get.
and that's super
Mhm.
true. Like some of us are definitely better at picking up on things and like sorting
Mhm.
things out faster than other people.
Right.
But like some people really do need like different steps and like
Right,
different
yeah.
particular like specific things like
Right.
actually laid out to be like, hey, this might happen, and like all sorts of things. So it's
Mhm.
really understandable. Like,
Right,
and I
yeah.
get that too. Like sometimes you're like, how do you not get it?
Right.
If you're
And
someone that like really
mhm.
picks up on stuff quickly,
Mhm.
it can almost feel kind of frustrating to try and help and like teach other people
Mhm.
something, because you're like, well, I get it this way.
Mm.
I don't know how else to explain it to be like, I don't know how to help you get it,
Yeah.
you know?
And I think that's what keeps a lot of people from trying new hobbies. I think a lot of people think, oh, I don't think like that. Or I don't, like, that's just not for me. I don't, like, I just don't have the brain for it. But everyone has just different ways of interpreting things. I had this
Yeah.
conversation once before where someone says, oh, I'm stupid. Like, I can't figure that out. It's like, if that's not the case, your brain just thinks in a different way. Everyone has their own ways of
Yeah.
interpreting the world around them. And you just got to find the way that works for you.
Yeah,
Mhm.
you just haven't found the way that like your brain understands it.
Exactly. So, if you find yourself stuck on a hobby that you really want to get into, maybe try to find a different angle, right? You don't have to do things the same way that other people do it. Mhm.
Yeah. That's part of like what makes stuff like 3D modeling great, is because like I
Mm.
said, there's 1,000 different ways that you can approach something.
Right.
Like you could go as far as like I could box model something from the ground up, or you could bring
Mm.
it and start by sculpting it immediately in
Mhm.
ZBrush. And then there's 1,000 different programs.
Mm.
Like if you don't like the way that something works in Maya, you can go to Blender, you can go to 3ds
Right.
Max, or if
Right.
you don't like Substance Painter, you can go to 3D Coat. Like there's a bunch of different
Yeah.
programs, and they work and function in different ways to get to the same end product
Yeah.
and it's like the world is kind of your oyster
The
in
world
this
is
sort
your
of
oyster.
situation. Yeah.
And I think a lot of people don't realize that as you get better at something, you don't just magically know how to do things. I think you just get better and better at finding faster pathways to the solution, right?
Yeah,
Like, you
yeah, you
know
just get
more
better
and
at
more.
solving the problem.
Exactly. You just you have a bigger, I guess, book of ways that you could solve something, right? You just get faster and faster at thinking like, oh, you know what, I've come across this problem before. I can solve it like this or this or this or this. You just have more experience under your belt.
Yeah, it's like you learn different ways to not do something.
Right.
Is one of the good ways. Like
There you
each
go.
failure is a new way to not do something.
Yeah, it's not it's not you like losing or doing something bad. It's just adding to your arsenal of things that you could use when you come across a problem. You think, I won't do that. I've experienced that before, but that's super cool. I'm really, intrigued by all of the lingo and the jargon, and I can tell that you're, of course, since you studied it before, that you're very well versed in 3D modeling. So I'm very curious. What is your next step? Do you have any other goals for 3D modeling in the future, especially now that you're so far into your 3D modeling, I guess, experience?
Right now, my goals is I'm working on making portfolio pieces so that eventually I
Cool.
can get like an actual job with
Sure.
my degree.
Sure.
You know, everyone's dream. You get a degree and you need a job with it.
Yeah, I could totally relate to that.
We don't talk about all the times that people end up with a degree and not a job, anything remotely like that degree.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Well, I'm sure you're gonna put together an amazing portfolio. I've hopped in and lurked in some of your 3D modeling streams, and I just think, what is this witchcraft?
I've been
Oh
thinking
my
it might be
God.
fun to do like a beginner's like model along with me someday.
I would love to, kind of like a Bob Ross sort of moment.
Yeah. Like, so I wouldn't probably tell you like exactly what to click and stuff. I'd
Okay.
just be like, all right, let's put like an edge loop here and extrude here. So it's something where it's like using the
I
same
love
base
that.
foundational language, but
Mhm.
it's up to you to learn
Mhm.
your particular program that you're using to follow along.
Oh my gosh. Oh, I love that. Well, I'm excited to see where that portfolio grows. But outside of, your hobbies, outside of, 3D modeling, I'd love to know what sorts of things you want to do in the future on your channel. What are your goals? What are your plans? If anyone out there is new to the world of the wonderful Miss Nami, what do we have to look forward to?
Games. I like games. No.
Oh my gosh.
So one thing that I'm doing for kawaii is you might see the little guy on my shoulder.
Yeah, little dude.
Yeah. Part of what I'm doing is I'm one of my goals is to work on rigging and drawing like mascots
Oh, cute.
for all the kawaii girls.
Oh my
so
gosh.
like this is my fan's mascot, and I'm gonna work on doing it for the other girls' fan mascots. And I've done one for Nene with the Cloud Tomos. So that's one of the things that gonna be on my channel in the future is more art and live 2D. I've also wanted to do like a live 2D learn to rig with me one day. So like giving a simple file that you could rig in the free version of live 2D.
Oh, okay.
I think there's a lot of people that are really interested in live 2D, and that would be fun. So like just like mini educational things, even though I always say don't come to my channel to learn anything. I'm not a teacher.
Oh my gosh. You're like a tutor.
Yeah, I can guide you, but I can't teach you well.
I
my
also
claim.
just noticed that the little Hiroji on your shoulder, its mouth is moving, it's talking. Hello, little one.
Yeah. He's fully rigged.
Oh
so
my gosh. So cute.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
He's even got like expressions and everything
Let me
too.
see. Can you showcase?
Yeah.
Our little Hiroji friend is not too shy.
Yeah, so he can cry.
No! Don't cry, little one.
I think does he have the animated tears, or is it just the here? I can make him bigger.
I have to get close.
He does have animated tears.
I have. You want to put it? You want to put him on the desk or something? There he goes. No! Don't cry, little one. Oh my god.
Yeah, so he's got the animated tears.
Oh wow.
I gave him a glow stick.
Oh my gosh! Oh my gosh! I love
and
that
you can see.
Oh wow.
It actually like has a light on the helmet whenever it gets close there too.
Oh wow. Oh my gosh. You're so cool. Okay. Wow.
Like angry.
Oh yeah, I can see it. I saw it. Oh my gosh. Oh, it's sweating. Uh-oh. We need to turn down the. Do we turn up the AC a little bit? Oh my gosh.
And then just the blush.
Oh, so cute. I'm
But
so
yeah, that's all its
enamored.
expressions.
That's more than enough. I feel like I've gotten the breadth of emotion in one go. Wow. Oh my gosh, that is so cool. I'm so excited to see your project come to fruition. That is so exciting. Well,
Yeah. So that's something I'm working on for Kawaii. That's gonna be like through the channel over time.
ooh. Well, if you want to see more of what the wonderful Miss Nami is doing, be sure to check out her channel and what do they say? Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe.
Oh
Ring
yeah,
that
the
bell.
algorithm stuff.
Oh my gosh, but I hope you've enjoyed your time here on Archangel Radio. Of course, we're gonna spend a little bit more time just chatting, see where the tangents take us while we read some super chats. But I hope
Oh,
you've
we're good
had
at
lots
that.
of fun. Oh, we're so very good at that. So I hope you all are buckled up. Do you have any exciting announcements or anything else you want to plug before, folks maybe who aren't able to stay for super chat reading need to head out for the day?
Oh, I do have a new series I'm kind of doing on my channel on Wednesdays called Wednesday
Oh.
Watchies. If you enjoy like movie recap and commentary videos, that's what I'm doing.
I love those. I remember I had a period of time I got addicted to those, but with horror movies. And it would basically have like this computer voice be like, welcome to movie recap. And today we're going to be recapping. And basically, because I felt bad, there were so many movies I wanted to watch, but I never had the time for. So I would just watch these like movie recap.
Yeah. So that's what I'm doing right now. My first one was like an hour long, and I just tell
Wow.
you like everything that happens in the movie and then end it with like a little review. So if that's something that you enjoy, I'm going to
Yeah.
be doing that on Wednesdays. I haven't decided if it's every Wednesday yet or every other Wednesday, just because it's a lot of work. There was 20 hours that
Yeah.
went into that 1 hour video.
Wow. Go watch it, guys. That's so cool. Oh my gosh. Okay. That's super fun. Oh, can we get a sneak preview for what is next?
The next one is going to be the movie We Have Always Lived in the Castle.
We have always lived in the castle. Can you give a quick little blurb so maybe we can get hyped for your recap?
It's this very interesting like thriller almost, but it's like a drama thriller in a way. If you've seen Haunting on Hill House,
Oh, okay.
yeah. So it's not quite as like spooky horror as that, but the author of the book that the movie was based on is the author of the book of Hill House. So it's like that same sort of vibe in some way. It's like very much like the feeling of otherness and like these people being like really ostracized and like just this bizarre little family trying to be like living their lives and hold themselves together. It's a really fascinating watch.
I love it when movies introduce that level of bizarreness. I think it really adds to the creepy factor. Right?
Yeah.
She and I were talking about this last week when we were talking about horror movies, but jump scares can feel very fleeting, right? Like you get scared, sure, but it's very in the moment. But when it comes to creepy things, it like sits with you, right?
Yeah. Jump scares are really cheap, but if you have something that will like really actually rattle you to the core, that makes a difference. Like that sticks with you.
Oh my god.
That'll have you looking over your shoulder.
I know, right? Keeping a nightlight on or something.
Mm-hmm.
Oh my gosh. Well, I'm so excited to see how this next Wednesday Watchies goes. I'm very intrigued by the title. So don't forget to tune in, okay? Everyone, don't forget to ring that bell, as they say. But oh my gosh, let me pull up my super chats for today. Do you like the little slideshow thingamaboop? This background was a gift.
That's awesome.
I know! I'm so honored to have this gift. Let me adjust the projector screen. Do-do-do-do-do-do-do-do. Joe, thank you so much for the super chat. Joe says, I'm loving the collaboration. Pen lights up, please. Members, if you wanna bring up a pen light in chat to celebrate, or if you don't have the emojis, you can also put a breadstick in the chat as well.
Yeah,
oh
the
my
breadstick is awesome.
Did you think? I know. I love all sorts of breads, but baguettes are also one of my favorite kinds of breads.
the best way to know that you've got a good baguette through the crust, the
Oh,
sound.
yes. Oh, yes. Oh, yes, yes, yes. Now I want a baguette. Oh my god. Did you have a favorite moment from today's Archangel Radio?
It's all been great. All of
Oh,
it.
I'm
The whole
happy to hear
thing.
that. Oh, that's the best answer. Thank you. Oh my gosh. And Kektor, thank you for the 10 gifted memberships. And I think you just gave another 10 gifted memberships. Thank you so much. And if you got a backstage pass, I hope you have lots of fun. Meridan, thank you for the 5 gifted. Oh my gosh. I hope you guys enjoy your time backstage. We just started a new month. And so you have a whole new month of exciting things to look forward to in members. But if you're not a member, we also have a lot of really other exciting things happening this month as well. I have a really exciting project that I'm, next week is my birthday, which is I'm really excited for. We also have...
Yay.
Thank you! And then we also have a charity stream next week. And then right after that, I'll be announcing a big project that I've been working on. I'm so excited. I've been waiting to share with everyone, and I can't wait to finally get to reveal it. Oh my god!
I bet it's gonna be really cool. All your little projects are always like super awesome.
Thank you. That really means a lot to me. You're very. This is my perception of you. You're very wise and very like interesting, and I feel like you have such a fascinating way of looking at the world. And so, I don't know, I look up to you for that. So, like, being able to hear that from you, it makes me very happy.
Aww.
So, thank you. I'm very honored that you think about my projects like that.
Oh, I'm honored you think about me that way. I think you're very awesome, and like you also have a great way of looking at the world. Like you're such just like a really kind and compassionate person all the time.
I really appreciate that. So, if you haven't gotten the chance to check out Nami, I hope I've done enough convincing today.
I unfortunately can't plug Rita more. We're on her channel. If you're from my channel, you better stick around.
Aw, thank you. I hope you all had plenty of fun today. I certainly had lots of fun listening to you chat and go on about your passions today. So thank you very much. Kektor says, thank you for the radio. Feel like I learned a lot and I'm feeling a little more motivated to look for an instrument. Always did think the harp was nice. Oh my gosh. Maybe we have a new harpist today.
It's expensive.
It is expensive. My younger sister plays the harp. She used to play the piano and now she plays the harp. So, you know, transferable skills, but she's really enjoyed it. I think a harp can both be very relaxing. I think a lot of people think about that first, but a harp can also be very intense if you know how to work a harp.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. You can see people go off on a harp. I'm like,
Oh,
how are
yeah.
you moving your fingers that fast?
How are your fingers strong enough? Because you don't use your pinky, right? That's like a thing.
No, yeah, no, you don't use your pinky.
For those who don't know, you don't use your pinky because apparently it's not strong enough. Is that right?
Yeah, no, you want to really like get in there and squeeze the strings, and like most of like your pedal harps have big metal strings on them. So think of like all the strings on a guitar, like a steel guitar string, but even bigger on a pedal harp.
Have you ever tried like a smaller harp, like a lyre or something?
I haven't tried a lyre. I have what's already considered a small harp. I have one that's only 26 strings, and even that was like $1,500 just to get that, because it has full levers on it, so I can play in any key.
In any key, sure. Gosh, yeah. I was playing Trombone Champ yesterday, and the topic came up about expensive instruments. Instruments are very expensive. They are quite
so expensive.
Depending on the instrument, you could probably find a used one for like $100, $300, right? But I was at like a conference or like a show or something, and I was like volunteering and I was moving some instruments, and they handed me a cello to carry, and they said, "Oh, be careful, they knew I knew how to handle a string instrument, but they said like, oh, just be a little extra careful. That's like the price of a car." And I said, like a used car, $3,000? And they said, no, like a new car, $30,000. And I just go,
yeah, I was like, oh, that's a $30,000 cello for sure.
$30,000 cello for sure. And they get so incredibly expensive. But they gave me the chance to play some of the violins and the violas, and the sound is unparalleled.
I
And the
know,
experience unparalleled.
really expensive instruments, they sound so good. And
Yeah.
unfortunately, like, harp is one of the instruments that, like, even the lowest barrier of entry, like, to get an actually good harp that's not gonna,
Right.
like, come apart on you, because there's an issue with a lot of people get like these really cheap like Pakistani harps, and they're much cheaper, but they like usually their levers don't work. They don't actually go up a half tone. Like they'll come unglued. They'll have like basically what they call like pregnant harp, where the soundboard will end up like really bowing out much more than it should. Like they're just really bad instruments. So harp is one of those instruments that like just the base level of entry for a decent enough instrument to learn on is so astronomically expensive. Like $1,000 is pretty much your low point on like getting in on learning the harp.
Right. You could also
While
try
a lot of other instruments, you can get cheaper ones. Like a flute, you can get a cheap flute for like $200, and you're gonna be able to learn on that thing perfectly fine.
There's also rent-to-own options. Like my viola, his name is Sebastian. I've had him for a very long time. I think I owned my viola after like a year or two. But the rent-to-own option is so much more like manageable. You pay like $50 a month for like a year or two, and like if you don't like it, then you can just stop renting, and you don't that's it. But if you like it, then you own it at the end of it, and it's really helpful, very helpful.
Yeah.
Gosh, but yeah, it's quite a bit of an investment, but you can look into
for
renting.
Sure.
Do you name your instruments?
I've only named one instrument that I've had before. Actually, I think my ukulele has an instrument.
Name?
It has an instrument. It is an instrument. It has a name.
It has its own baby ukulele that it takes care of.
That would be fascinating.
Oh my gosh.
But no, my flute that I had in high school, because I was in high school band, of course.
Of course.
Was named
marching?
Irene. I was in marching, because my school is I'm not like in a really affluent area, or I wasn't. So our band class was like half marching, half orchestra. So like during football season, it would be marching, and then whenever it wasn't football season, it was our concert season.
Symphony,
so then we would, it would be symphony, because we didn't actually have any strings.
Oh, okay.
To be like full orchestra. Yeah, it was all winds and percussion.
Fun. Oh my gosh. So, no names?
Well, there was Irene for the flute.
For the
my
ukulele.
current one doesn't have a name. And then my ukulele, I think I named it Bessie.
Oh, cute!
I thought that was cute. Yeah. I haven't named my harp yet.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, it's something you have to think about. Like you have to listen to the sound and the experience. I have Sebastian the viola. I've been with Sebastian the viola for, gosh, too long now. I can't even remember. Oh, but I recently named my ukulele. It's Luke the Uke.
Oh, that's cute.
But we just call him Luke for short. But Sebastian and Luke. And if I get another instrument, I'll have to think about what other names.
Sebastian feels really fitting for a viola.
Right? I just felt it. So, Sebastian is a used viola. He has a lot of like scars, unfortunately, but very warm sound, very beautiful. I recently got his strings changed out too, so he's like a new man.
Oh man, I'm terrified of the first time I'm gonna have to change a string on my harp.
Oh gosh, right? I've never changed a harp string, but it seems so frightening.
That's always like the scariest part of any instrument. Like when you get a stringed instrument, is like, I'm going to have to change a string someday.
Yeah. It's so crazy. I've definitely had I've only had a string break on me once. But it's only happened once, and I was like, okay, let me lock that away. Let me compartmentalize that. We're not gonna think about that again. I'm not gonna let that scare me into not changing strings. I've had bow hairs like break. Like I've had a bow break in the middle of a performance. Not in the middle of a performance, but in the middle of a rehearsal, and I thought, wow, maybe I'm going a little bit too. It was an old bow, so there's that.
Ham on the bow.
Oh my god, I certainly did. Gosh, But yes, I'm
Yeah.
glad we're having this musicians conversation. I love talking to other
Mm.
musicians.
I find like a lot of us VTubers seem to be like musicians as well.
I've been really meaning to put together like a VTuber orchestra.
That would be so fun.
Would you like to be our flautist?
Yeah. I'm looking at getting a better flute. Like I'm looking at getting one that has a silver riser in the mouthpiece, so it sounds even
Oh.
better for like less expensive. Because if you get like a full, actually like silver body flute, that is
Expense.
we don't want to talk about that.
Oh god. Do you play the piccolo?
I've never played piccolo, but I'm pretty sure I could, just because
Right.
it's basically just baby flute.
Yeah, baby.
Yeah.
Baby flute. I've heard plenty of people call it baby flute, mini flute.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah.
That is so. Oh, also, this is so random. You mentioned you played the saxophone. Is that correct?
I could play a little bit of saxophone. It was like the instrument that I really wanted to play when I got into band, and then like whenever I got into band, we had basically like instrument try day. So like our local music shop brought instruments to the class so that everyone could try all of them to see like what they could actually feasibly play, like make a sound on. And I got to the saxophone. I couldn't make a singular sound on it that day, but I knew how to play the flute because my mom played the flute, so we had a flute in the house.
Oh goodness! So you were kind of like pushed into it, but I'm sure you enjoyed
Yeah.
the flute. Is it true
no, I
that
love the flute.
is it true that the saxophone is actually a woodwind instrument and not a brass instrument? Is that fact?
It is, yeah. It's a woodwind.
Is it
It's,
because
like,
it has
much more akin to a clarinet?
Oh, what? So what makes it a woodwind and not a brass instrument?
It has pads on the
Oh.
Yeah. So it actually has pads. So you wouldn't be able to clean it like a brass instrument. Like a brass instrument, you can toss that into your tub and it's fine. If you
Interesting.
threw a saxophone into your tub, you would ruin it.
Yeah. That I did not expect that. I thought it would be like made out of brass. Interesting. Wow.
Yeah. So it is like mostly metal. I mean, just like a flute is metal, but it's still a woodwind instrument.
Interesting.
And it's like between, obviously a saxophone has the reeds, but you also have the pads on it.
But a flute doesn't have reeds, right?
No, the flute doesn't have a reed.
Oh my gosh. It just has like a hole for you to blow into.
Yeah. So if you ever want to find out what it's like to make a sound on a flute, if you can get like an empty glass bottle and you blow across the top and it makes that sound.
I have a water bottle right here. It's glass. But the opening might be too wide. Oh my gosh.
Yeah, so that was like how my mom decided to let us learn whenever I was like really small and I wanted to learn how to play the flute that we had in the house. She was like, when you can make a sound on a bottle, you can learn how to play the flute.
I had a friend who played the flute, and he was like, "Do you want to try playing the flute?" So I was like, "Sure, why not?" So I got a rag, I cleaned it off, but I tried to blow into it, but I couldn't. And he was like, "You have to have it. Is it called embouchure? You have to perfect that."
Yeah.
And I just
you
thought,
have to have the right
okay.
embouchure.
I don't know what that means, but I'll do my best. And he just goes, and he said, no, that's not how you do it. And he just goes, I'm like, okay. Oh
yeah.
my
So the
gosh.
flute, you have to blow like kind of down and
down.
across.
And what? Okay, down and across. I say as I hold a glass bottle to my lips. I need to get a different glass bottle. Maybe I'll pick it up. I don't have any flute friends now, but I'm gonna be joining a community orchestra. Maybe I'll make another flute friend.
There you
Oh
go.
my gosh.
Yeah. You show off your cool bottle blowing skills and be like,
Oh
let me play your flute.
Give me, hand it over. Oh my gosh. Well, Forrest, thank you so much for the 4th month as Idol Coach. Forrest says the movie reviews are lit. They're lit. Listening to Nami talk about film is always a treat. I'm so excited. I really want to check it out. Because I'm assuming you talk about, of course, like the story, but are there any other aspects to the films that you talk about? Like lighting, direction, things like that?
I do, actually. I do. I talk a little bit about, in the first one, I talk about how weird some of the sound direction is.
Okay.
because there's a character whose lines in the film often sound like they've been like automatically replaced. If you know what that is, like ADR, automatic dialogue
Okay.
replacement,
Mm-hmm,
is
mm-hmm.
when an actor will actually come back later and re-record that
Right.
line, and then they'll dub it over them saying it in the movie. So it sounds like a lot of her lines get like overdubbed, or like she looped it, which is like
Oh.
an actor doing multiple takes of the same line, and then they
Okay.
use like the best audio over the best like
Fascinating.
visual take.
Right.
But like
That is
hers
so
end up
interesting.
sounding as if they've been like recorded in a completely different environment sometimes in the movie.
Mm-hmm.
And I'll talk about that. I talk about like costuming,
Okay.
because that's something I'm really interested in, is costuming. So I've in part of the movie, I'm like, these people are supposed to be really rich, and they've got fake flowers for their boutonnieres.
Come on now. Come on now.
And this man is in a pre-tied tie, and you're just showing it.
Oh my gosh. Well, if you want a full look into these various films, be sure to check out Nami's channel. I'll try to check out the next one. Wednesday's coming up. Oh my gosh. Kektor and Meridan, thank you so much for the gifted memberships. Very much appreciated. And Demon Warrior, thank you so much for the dono. Demon Warrior says, thank you both for today's educational stream today. Nami, best of luck to you in your hobbies. Very inspirational. And as always, thank you, Rita, for being an amazing host and continuing to be an inspiration to us all. Thank you so much, Demon Warrior. I really appreciate that.
Thank you.
Yes, and thank you, Nami, for being very inspirational today. I always feel so lucky being able to listen to you all, go off about your passions and your hobbies and your interests. So thank you for taking me into the world of 3D modeling. I learned about, sticking to quads. I learned about that. I learned about, the whole void overlapping faces and having patience. And now I can go into a situation, right? I can go into the 3D modelers only club, right? And say, hey guys, I know how to have patience. You know what I mean? And then they're like, oh, okay. She knows. She's in.
I know to stick to quads.
I know to stick to quads, and they're okay. Yeah. She knows. She's in.
You know.
She's part of the cool kids.
She's got it.
So thank you, for being our tutor for today, and for telling us all about the amazing world of being Nami.
Of
do you have any final things you want to share with everyone before we wrap up and thank today's Archangel Radio sponsors and head out for the day?
I mostly just want to thank you for inviting me. I had a wonderful time talking with our lovely, true, actual, real life angel.
Oh, stop! Thank you. Oh, thank you so much. I really appreciate that.
This is your casual reminder that I'm much more Ludo adjacent. If you do come to my channel, please understand I may as well be a sailor.
And hey, sailors are cool. Like I said, you're really cool, Nami. So keep on being cool. Keep on being awesome. And if you want to have a little bit more of a Luto sort of chaotic little time, then head on over to Nami's channel. So thank you so much for being here today, and a huge shout out to today's Archangel Radio sponsors, the Demon Warrior Fund, the Joe Foundation, and the Kektor program, and to viewers like you. Thank you.
Thank you.
And as always, I hope you have a wonderful rest or a wonderful rest of your day, and we'll see you all next time. Thank you!
Thank you, everyone. Bye.
Bye-bye. Hey, hey, hey! So if you can't already tell by the end card on screen here, next week is going to be a crazy, awesome, busy week. The first stream we have is we're going to be playing some Genshin Impact on my actual birthday. So not a birthday celebration because I know it's in the middle of the week. The birthday celebration will be on the weekend. But if you want to join me on my birthday, I will be playing some Genshin Impact. It's going to be the Mondstadt Wine Festival that we're going to be playing through. So we can celebrate the festival. We can celebrate my birthday. I'll maybe get a nice bottle of honey wine and we can enjoy some Genshin together on my birthday. Then we'll be playing through some Florence. It's a very beautiful, introspective sort of game about relationships and growth. I think we're all going to have a lot of fun playing through that. It's a quick game, but we can talk about it, dissect it, really get into the meat and potatoes of the story. And then we have my birthday celebration. And we also have the charity stream for the National Alliance on Mental Illness. We're raising funds for Mental Illness Awareness Week. So if you want to join us for a fun little presentation, a little panel, please do tune in for that. Then we're going to end the week with a joint birthday party with Iku. We're going to be watching some Idler 7, chatting, and I'll be sharing my gift with her then. And I have a huge project that I'll be revealing in the middle of October. So do tune in for the project reveal event. It's going to be a Totsumachi style sort of stream, but you'll see then what we'll be talking about. But I'll see you all next week and have a good weekend. Bye!